Hey guys, PepperAmmy here. It's that time of year again whilst the gigantic rhubarb in the garden is ready to be harvested. Now these massive rhubarb stalks weigh between 300 and 400 grams each, not including the leaves. So I'm going to be turning about 400 grams of this into a large rhubarb Bakewell tart. Now for this, we'll of course need some sweet shortcrust pastry. You can, if you wish, use pre-made shortcrust pastry. You'll need around 500 grams. But if you want to make your own, you want to start by combining 300 grams of plain flour with 100 grams of icing sugar. Now you can use normal sugar, but the icing sugar will give it a lot smoother texture and it won't necessarily be as gritty if the sugar doesn't dissolve. And 150 grams of unsalted room temperature butter. Now you want to combine that in a bowl and rub together with your fingertips until it resembles breadcrumbs. Next, you want to add in 2 egg yolks. Now if the pastry feels a bit too dry and won't stick together, you want to add in a tablespoon of water or optionally milk. Now if your eggs are on the larger side and you have a wet sticky dough, you can just add in some extra flour. Then you want to shape your dough into a ball, flatten it out into a disc. If you are not making the tart now, you can wrap it up in cling film and chill it for at least 30 minutes or until you are ready. Now if you are making the tart now, or you are using pre-made dough, you'll run around 500 grams of dough. Then you want to roll out the pastry with a little flour and line a 23 centimeter round tart tin. Now I personally went for a larger tin as my rhubarb is on the larger side. Then you want to trim any excess pastry, leaving a little overhang as this pastry will shrink down slightly whilst cooking. And then you want to prick the base with a fork and chill for 30 minutes. Whilst your dough chills, you want to heat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius and cut your rhubarb into manageable sizes and lay the rhubarb stalks on a baking dish and scatter over around 50 grams of white sugar. Now if you have halved your rhubarb lengthways, you want to make sure to coat the open sides as well. Then you want to cover with some foil and bake for 20 to 30 minutes or until the rhubarb is nice and tender but not mushy. And then set to one side and cool. Now you can also reserve the rhubarb syrup that's going to cook off the rhubarb, and you can use that as a topping for various foods or even just add it to drinks for a rhubarby twist. Next you want to turn the oven temperature to 190°C and line the pastry with either some greaseproof paper filled with baking beans, or just use a smaller tart pan if you have one that fits, and then bake for 15 minutes. Then remove the beans or the baking dish if you are using that and bake for another 5 minutes until the pastry is golden and let cool. Once cooled, spread some strawberry jam over the base of the cooled tart, and then you want to make your sponge filling. Now for this you will need 125 grams of ground almonds. But it's often cheaper to buy whole almonds and blanch and grind them yourself rather than buying almond meal. Now if you want to blanch them, you want to place your almonds in a bowl, pour over enough boiling water to cover and let sit for a few minutes until the skins have hydrated and become loose. Then scoop them out of the water, pat dry and remove the skins. Then using a food processor or a blender, you want to grind the almonds. Then either in a bowl or the same food processor that you ground your almonds in, you want to mix together the ground almonds, 50 grams of white flour, 125 grams of white sugar, 125 grams of softened butter and 2 whole eggs, and of course half a teaspoon of baking powder. Then give this a good mix until it is nice and smooth, and then you want to gently dollop this into the bottom of the tart tin, trying not to disturb the jam too much, and then gently spread it out so it's nice and even. Next, cut and arrange the rhubarb on top, optionally scatter over some flaked almonds and then bake for 25 to 30 minutes or until the sponge is risen around the rhubarb and got a nice golden colour. And there you have it, a nice summery rhubarb Bakewell tart. You can serve this warm with some ice cream, or let it cool down and just have it as a nice cold dessert in the evening as well. And that wraps up this week's video. As always, if you like what you saw, let me know down below with a like and a comment. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe for free weekly cooking content, and I will see you all again next week. Thanks for watching.